gentlemen, today we are honored to have with us Shri Atul Kumar Tiwari ji, who is a seasoned public policy leader and former Secretary to the Government of India. Let's put our hands together to welcome sir for his kind address.
Good afternoon to everyone, all the distinguished members and the fellow panelists on the dais. At the outset, I would like to thank Hemant and his Digi team for inviting me to this exceptional summit. And the particular thing to remember here is that there is a certain thoughtfulness in designing this in a closed door, no media format, so that it allows for some frank discussion, some reflection, and also candid dialogue. Today also I consider the rare privilege to have the speaking after Professor Pankaj Mittal, who has such a wide experience in the higher education field. I had an occasion to meet her earlier. Of course, Sri Alok Agarwal ji, he gave in such a lucid manner what can be done about the AI. Mr. Pawan Dawar, who has done great work as a philanthropic side, as from the Aziz, Shivanadar Foundation. And of course, Rajesh Kumar, who is an entrepreneur of building successful educational ventures. And of course, Mr. Hemant Sahal, who runs the Digii, which provides enterprise technology for educational institutions. And as Professor Mittal was saying, listing out 3 items, which is about capacity building and then technology and the curriculum, I would say that there's also a need for a learning management system, which is a combination of the ERP as well as measuring the learning outcomes of the students. And there's also a very important part if we are to take advantage of the technology in the higher education institutions. So, ladies and gentlemen, as it was told, I am a seasoned bureaucrat and I worked in different sectors. Last was almost 5 years in the skill development. And I have seen the skill development very, very close quarters, right from the COVID. When the COVID has begun, that was the time I entered there. And we have seen over the years, there are 2 things which have happened quite rapidly, maybe prompted by the COVID. One is that education and skillings are supposed to be a part of the same continuum. B, there is always more and more integration of the skilling side in education through the national education policy. And third is that we are also talking about the aspirational levels of the skills and the requirements. And the policy side also, now we are going more on giving incentives to, in a way, to the industries in order to attract the skills which they should have. So I would like to summarize what has been said so far, and I was very happy to say that when I was looking through the sessions, and they were very aptly named. One was on the re-architecturing of higher education system. In fact, the one question which I wanted to put to Mr. Hitesh was, he has run a private university, but what suggestions he would like to give for, say, public universities, in which we have to re-architecture the process, people, power, everything there, which is very, very important. Then it was also, in a way, whatever restructuring we do, re-architecting, is also about the future shaping. And I'm seeing from the public policy perspective. Then how the policy can work as a catalyst. And then there was also some discussion perhaps what happened on the legacy trap, which is also a major problem in the public policy arena. And of course, the present government has been saying, government as a whole, so convergence effort, what is being required. And a lot of things has been laid down in the national education policy. So I would start with saying, coming to the main part of my talk today, is that the convergence of higher education and skilling, why it is so important, and how it can be done. That is the content of my discussion, my talk today. So when we say that India has a demographic dividend, it can become dividend can be useful only if it is invested wisely. And we have 32 crore learners in our education system. Schools as well, higher education has around 5 crore. And we find things are changing quite fast. Industries are evolving faster than the curricula, which has been mentioned again and again while I was here. There have been emerging sectors, whether it is AI, semiconductor, EVs, green hydrogen, drones, logistics, healthcare. And these all demand skills which are not required or not thought of 10 years ago. And the global labor market is also seeing something unprecedented opportunities for youth, Indian youth going around. And there's a greater reliance among the higher education institutions and how to bring them together, because we have found that many of the general claim which was made by Hitesh also was that the industries are not finding the educated people useful. So there is indeed a need, at least when the higher education, the youth are going into the labor market, or maybe perhaps before that, how to give them some skills. And I would say that India's youth, they answering to Hitesh's thing that skill and demand mismatch is there, I would say that the Indian youth do not lack capability, they lack a pathway. And that pathway has been divided in many ways. One is educational pathway, another is skilling pathway, and then entrepreneur pathway, and we need to link them together. So there becomes a schools, skills, higher education, industry, lifelong learning, which was also, Alokji was also saying today. And that is the biggest challenge, and there's also the biggest opportunity which we have. Now, the old silos which were there between education and skilling will not work anymore. It is becoming more and more evident. And so far we have found, at least in the public universities, they are focused on degrees, and skills were seen as a parallel, often second-tier pathways. Academic excellence does not always translate into employability because there is a gap. There are sometimes skills which are required. And practical competencies did not lead to academic progression, so there's a mismatch. And all this has been tried to bring them together is by the National Credit Framework, in which what they learn by education or by skilling or by working for a long time, that all have made equivalent. And gentlemen and ladies, I would request all of you to go around and see the credit framework. We are quite detailed. There are 2-3 tables are there, and it was quite an exercise when we were there to work it together with higher education and school education and bring it under one coherent form, so that the idea is why it is so important, because it breaks certain myths. It makes the skilling what the person learns by doing by hand also as a kind of credit, or what one has been working as a kind of occupational skills also relevant. It so allows multiple entry, multiple exits. It so also allows for lifelong learning. And we are moving into a regime where these kind of things are going to be very, very important. Person is doing some studies, then he's getting some skills, it is working, again coming back, and even 30 years old, 35 years old, 40 years old, they will have to keep on developing their key competencies in terms of short skills, in terms of gnosis, in terms of micro skills, and getting all of them paired together so that it becomes a kind of digital certificate of the skilling and education and employment. And that is where the future is going to lie. I'm sure Mr. Anil Sahasrabudhe in the morning today, since he's part of the NETF, he would have told you great detail about the architecture which is being designed in terms of UPAR, in terms of DigiLockers, in terms of UPI and all that. And this is where we are there. And since in India, every time the numbers are so high that we sometimes get frightened, but that is also our strength. And I must say that whatever little I know, and I have worked in the continuum of education and skills, we are on our way towards getting some kind of skill passport, digital, the certificate or record of what a person's competency lies. And that is where the real revolution is going to start. Second is that we also have to realize from the university's points that there is a skill ecosystem developed there. There are certain courses available, shorter duration, longer duration. We also had the last year about the apprenticeship-based degree programs has been announced by the AICTs and UGC. The UGC in 2020 itself, they had announced that this much part of the academic courses can be skill-based, vocational education-based, and it is for the universities to take advantage of. And since I worked in the skill development, we also have something called National Council for Vocational Education Training. There's a national qualification register is there. A lot of education institutions have also become awarding bodies, assessing agencies, so that what degrees or what certificates you allow, that can also be part of the credit system and can be a bona fide certification which allows people to take advantage of. But more important, we find that what is the problem in the education system? There's a large number of people on the BA, BSc, and BCom, and that needs to have integrated skilling system, and for that, we require industry-aligned skill modules. I am from Karnataka, cadre, and there Karnataka, especially in some of the higher, the degree colleges, this has been tried. You also have an opportunity of apprenticeship, degree-based apprenticeship, and otherwise, you need to have some practical labs. Many industries have also come forward. Digital literacy, everything is MOOC, and everything is so much is available freely. And this also allows some amount of real-life experience in terms of on-the-job training, for which also we need to have a develop some interactions, some structured way of academia and industry coming together. And of course, we have 400 new age courses available of different varieties. It is all there. I mean, do not need to invent anything. And that you can see which courses can be added there. So that whatever is being offered by higher education institutions, they can also become part of the skill, and what is more important, what is the university, the industry's need. So universities can become as a center of future skills. And they can have the active partners, and we have found that there are different ways, because the industry is as much interested in getting skilled people as well the universities are in producing them. And this gap should get lesser and lesser, provided the universities start thinking about becoming more closer to industry needs. And how that can happen? That can happen through co-designed curricula, that can happen on the co-delivered courses. It can be designed by the joint faculty. It can be designed by apprenticeship credits. It can be something sponsored with industry. We can have some sector skill councils embedded in your campuses. It can happen by coming closer and closer towards what the industry needs. And there are so many examples of these things happening. Now, at this present time, it will look very small, but as if you see on a secular level, these things is growing, and it will continue to grow to a great extent. Then the fourth point I would like to say is that digital transformation is a non-negotiable ingredient, and any university that does not have a digital at its core will not stay competitive. And Professor Mittal laid down, and I added one more point. For example, we have designed a new scheme called PM Setu, which is about 1,000 ITIs, government ITIs to be developed. And one very important part of those two items are, madam, one is capacity building of the trainers and LOMS system, which is kind of ERP with a learning management system, to which, as Alokji was saying, you can design AI-based interactive technology, game-based education system, and all this will become integrated in one digital solution system, so that they can be taken advantage by not only the faculty, but the students, by the administrator, and it all allows everything to be done in a very transparent and quick manner. This is something which I call foundational infrastructure, which is required. And as was said, the universities should also become a lifelong learning hubs, and they have to keep on constantly adopting and changing the curriculum. They can offer modular courses, small courses. It need not be 1 year, 2 year, 4 year courses. They can have a stackable credit courses can be available. You can have evening and weekend learning. You can have online and hybrid programs. You can have upskilling for industry professionals. You can have international mobility pathways. And all these are required for increasing India's productivity. So we need to, how we can, if you can say some 4 or 5 suggestions I'd like to give, is A, integrate at least 20% of skills within all degree programs in the universities immediately, and it is quite possible. Create a future skill councils within your university so that it is linked to industry trends and NSDC or sector skill requirements, so that it brings through them, you can bring the industries together. Third, mandate apprenticeship or on-the-job training for all final year students. And for these, the detailed guidelines have been given. Fourth, digitize the campus, as was said, high internet lines and all that. Then, fourth, at least one serious industry partnership per department per year. When I was in the industry, we did analysis of Delhi University, ma'am, and we found out which are the different schools there, and which are the schools, what are the courses they are offering, and what industry can be brought together. So if you sit down with the universities, your strength, and leverage them and bring the industry together, and universities are also universities because they can design courses, they can assess, that's why you are given the statutory mandate, and this is something which can be easily done to bring the skilling together. So I would say that a university without skill cannot produce employable graduates, and a skilling system without academic integration cannot produce innovators. And that is where we need the convergence between learning, working, earning, and progressing. And this is the institutional leadership will define the future, and universities are big institutions in themselves. Policies can always guide, legacy problems will always be there, but we have to lead the universities, should come ahead and lead this drive to make our future generation employable. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, it is a shared mission for Viksit Bharat, and whenever it is said that Viksit Bharat will require this and this and that, my answer to that is, of course you require a good airport, of course you require highways, of course you require less air pollution and everything, but more than that, you require a skilled manpower. And no country, there's numerous studies that have happened where they say that the value, if the value is attached to the skilling, what difference does it make to the GDP and the production and all that functions? And I don't need to quote all that, it's all available. And a developed nation is only when we are creating employment, not just sheer employment, but a decent employment for our youth. And that is only when we have done that, achieved that, then only you will find that automatically the country is Viksit Bharat. And that is the goal of Honorable Prime Minister, that is the goal we have NEP, that is the goal to which we all subscribe to, and to see that we will be able to bring that. And one single thing can happen is bringing the convergence between the skilling and education system together. There's a well-developed skilling ecosystem. The universities need to be a little bit more extrovert. They need to go out of their campuses. They need to restructure, re-architecture, be a future-proofing themselves. And the universities are the place where the academic reforms, with that skill building and with that national building can happen. So ladies and gentlemen, all the representatives from the different higher education institutions, technology leaders, I say that we have a great responsibility on all of us, and I congratulate the DG team, the speakers, distinguished academic leaders represent here for your commitment to this mission. And I am sure that as Rajesh ji was saying, maybe all this discussion will lead to some actionable point from next Monday, and every new step is a step forward in the right direction. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.